this month's episode of Recovery Rockstar. My name is Melinda White. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is that I haven't had to use a mood or a mind-altering substance since December 28, 2011. To say it's a blessing is an understatement. I'm coming up on 7 years now, and it's not my victory, but it's those who helped me, those people who went before me, showed me the way. I can say the one thing that I definitely did do right was I followed their suggestions. I did believe there was hope, and it's because people were willing to share their experience, strength, and hope with me. So this show, that's what our goal is. It's to be able to share hope with people who might think that there's no way that they could recover, or there's no way that their family or friends could recover. We're here to tell you that you absolutely can. What I want to highlight this month too, just quickly, is the accessibility to Narcan, which are the overdose kits. We have 3 pilot sites in Franklin County. There is the Howard Center, Turning Point of Franklin County, and the in the BART Clinic. So if anybody wants to get their hands on Narcan, it's so simple, it's free, it's confidential. I encourage you to get a kit. People ask me how they know if they should get one or not. I say, if you're somebody who ever leaves your house, it's a good idea to get a kit. Sometimes you go to the grocery store and you might look over in a vehicle next to you and see that somebody could benefit from having a kit used on them. That happens, unfortunately, often around here. So really want to make sure that we have Narcan all over the streets. We can't help people if they die. So that being said, I'm extremely excited about this month's episode. The person that I'm going to introduce, it's difficult to talk about, for me anyway, sometimes to talk about and think about how far he's come without getting emotional, because I've seen him grow in leaps and bounds. And for me, this is a true picture of what recovery looks like when somebody is willing to be compliant and obedient with the suggestions laid out before them and willing to make change. You know, in the people who struggle with addiction, there's only 2 things that we hate. We hate the way things are, and we hate change. So it's very difficult to get, that recovery journey started. And yet, when somebody is willing to reach out and say, I need some help, the options are unlimited, the growth is amazing, and the miracles are beautiful. So on this month's episode, I am super excited that I am going to be interviewing Richard, who goes by Rick, right?
Right.
And just to be able to share with people what your journey has been like. Obviously you and I met a little while back, and I have seen your growth, and I can't help but comment on it anytime I see you in person or on a Facebook or whatever it might be. So first I want to say thank you for coming. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I want to thank you for being there at a time when I really needed people.
Well, you're so welcome, and you've been like more of a blessing to me than I think I could ever be to you, just by watching you.
Thank you.
So to start out with, tell me a little bit about what your life looked like in kind of the younger years. Did you grow up around here, different state?
I grew up in the city. I grew up in Burlington. I grew up in the old North End.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the 80s was a good time in the old North End, but it was also a tough time.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you find that, like, when you were in school, so let's say kind of grade school, did you, experience substances or know what did you ever, drink or smoke, or what did that kind of look?
Yes, in grade school I started young.
You did? Okay, so you were...
Smoked my first cigarette when I was young, and that's where it started.
Right, and I've noticed that for me too. In the last couple people I've had, they're like, I had that first cigarette, and it's not even that it tasted good, but we push beyond that because it's so cool that we're gonna do it until we like it, right?
It's a social thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just trying to fit in.
Yep, common answer for people too.
Right.
So you had your first cigarette when you were younger, and then once you got into your high school years, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I moved back and forth between schools a lot, so it was trying to fit in. I had to work even harder at that. So
I'm sure.
The tendency to use was more for me because I was trying to fit in.
Did you find that a lot of times you were using because it was fun and you enjoyed it, or it was to help you cope with uncomfortable situations, or both?
I think it was both.
Yeah.
Both, yeah. Both.
Did you tend to migrate towards people that were also partying? And
yes.
It's a big one, right?
Right.
So when was the first time that you got in any kind of trouble for using something?
Oh, boy. I flew under the radar for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, I flew under the radar for a very long time.
So you didn't get in any real notable trouble through high school, anything like that?
No.
Okay, so once you got a little bit, were you like once you hit 21, or I should even say 18 if you did the Canada thing, but were you one of the people that started going out to the bars and the clubs and stuff like that?
Yeah, I grew up in St. Albans too, so I was between St. Albans and Burlington, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we definitely did Canada quite a bit.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, that was the first two weeks. Not a good picture.
Oh, no.
So, and of course Canada, because the drinking age was 18, right? So that was a good place for us
it was
Vermonters.
easier.
Right?
Right.
Did you ever find that you were having people that would say, it seems like you're kind of drinking too much or doing too much, or did you feel like the people that you were surrounded by were all kind of doing the same?
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing.
So it wasn't highlighted a lot.
Right. Later on in life, people started noticing.
Yeah.
Because I was okay with it. Because it was that non-drug drug.
Right.
I okayed it.
Right. So for you, like, alcohol was definitely kind of that, like, gateway.
Yeah.
Okay. And then did you use any other drugs along that journey?
Yeah, I used whatever I could get my hands on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when's the first time that you noticed that you had, like, a negative consequence, like yourself feeling this is not what I expected?
When my family came to me and said, you're going to die. We don't want to see you die. We're coming out in the morning and we're afraid we're going to find you.
Right. So it was like an intervention.
Right. Yeah.
And around what age was it that happened?
I was in my mid-30s.
Your mid-30s?
Yeah.
And what did you end up doing about it? Did you go somewhere, or did you?
No, I did it on my own for a little while. Yeah. But then.
Cold turkey?
Yeah, I cold turkeyed it with a garden, and then. Yeah.
How did that work out?
It worked out for a season.
Yeah.
Seasons change.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
winter time is a rough one for me too, I notice.
Yep.
Especially with my injury I have.
Yeah. And did you, so, and you mentioned an injury too, is that what kind of introduced you to narcotics?
Yes,
to opiates?
yes. Before that, I just drank and smoked marijuana and stuff like that.
So around what age were you when you ended up getting injured?
I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, when I got on the medicine. Yeah, okay. And that was at that time when Oxycontin, they didn't really know much about it, and they were really striving to get it out there.
Yeah, overprescribed.
It was a wonder drug.
For sure.
Right.
Did you find in the beginning that you were taking as prescribed?
Yeah, as prescribed, and then it just got out of hand.
Yeah, and what happens is, I'm sure, as you know, with opioids, we start building a tolerance. So whatever you've been taking, you need more because it's not working the way that it used to. Did you find that when you were, did you get to the point where you were taking too many, like more than prescribed?
Yeah, half of a month was bad. The first half was good, the second half was bad.
So you would take basically double up on everything and then run out, which is such a common scenario. When you found yourself running out, what would you do?
In the beginning, I would go sick, and then I found ways of doing it.
Right, getting them on
connections and trading and the whole messy deal about it.
Right.
Yeah, it's tiring. Just to think about it makes me
Isn't
tired.
it exhausting?
Very tiring.
It's funny because as I hear you say that, it brings me back to, that world that I was in too, and how even if, let's say, we're at a job or we're at a family function, we might be there physically, but mentally it's all about, I have to call this one and make sure I show up here or else you miss out. And just it's exhausting.
Yeah, it definitely takes you away, even though you think you're doing it to be there. Right,
right. So when you got to that point where you obviously knew that you're physically addicted to the opiates, but then you're also, exhibiting like what we call opioid use disorder. Did you ever get to points where you found yourself like committing illegal crimes to get it, or?
Yeah, everybody does.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
And what did it look like when you got to a point where you started getting sick and tired of being sick and tired?
When you start seeing everything go, when you start selling your own stuff.
So you sold your belongings?
Yeah, it gets bad.
Yeah. Had you ever met anybody in recovery or known how to go about it?
I thought it was a myth, even though it was there.
Yeah.
That part of my brain that was sick didn't let the part of my brain that should have been thinking right think about that.
It's funny you say that because I was in a recovery event the other day and somebody was saying how the left side of their brain used to sell the right side of their brain BS and the right side would buy it.
Right.
And it's almost like we've got that inner turmoil. It's like a tug of war between we don't want to use anymore, it's not who we want to be, and yet we have to because we can't survive or function without it. So as you're finding that this is something that you can't escape from. And you also had, it sounds like, a belief system that people really don't recover.
Right.
Was there something that had happened to make you feel like, I need to get help, I need to reach out? Was there a bottom that you hit?
When my marriage ended and I was on the streets, I finally woke up.
And that was in your 30s?
No, that was last year.
It was like, okay.
It was a long road. It was
So
it was 12 years of hell.
12 years of that.
Yeah, it was 12 years of hell.
Chasing and losing and struggling.
Yeah.
And do you find, like, as you got towards the end of the 12 years, what did you feel like emotionally? Like when we say, you hit your bottom, so you just named a few things on the outside, you found yourself homeless, losing your wife, losing your home, your family. What did you feel like inside?
I felt failure.
You feel like you let yourself down, and
I let everybody else down too.
Right. It's interesting too when you said like you knew recovery was out there, but you didn't believe it. And I often tell people in the beginning when I went to some various recovery meetings, and let's say if it was a meeting where people are focusing on alcohol and they say they haven't used for all these years, but they're happy and smiling, I would think, well, okay, maybe you're not drinking, but I'm sure you're doing lines in the bathroom. Like, I couldn't believe somebody could actually be happy without having to use.
Right.
So for you got to a bottom where you were basically depleted. What was the first step that you took to get out of that?
I walked into the doors of the pain clinic on Catherine Street.
So to the Northwestern Medical Center
Yes.
Comprehensive Pain Clinic on Catherine Street.
Yes, I was walking by there and I had been told by several people that if I really wanted help, that was the place to go.
So the word on the street was that that's the place to go to get help.
So I was walking by there one day kicking stones and something dragged me in there. I mean, normally I would say, I'm good. But that day I walked in there and from that day on, everything just started falling into place. And I'm a firm believer in right choices now, good choices.
Awesome.
Because if you make that right choice, the next one is going to be right. It's going to be good.
It's so amazing too because, I see you on Facebook, so I see the things that you post, like lots of positive thoughts, positive affirmations. And it sounds like that's a big piece of why you feel that you've been able to be successful in your recovery.
Right. Mindfulness and positivity. It breeds itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's almost like just like when we're struggling with use and things get darker and darker and then it just multiplies so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
When you do that in recovery, it also can multiply the benefits.
Yeah, it's almost overwhelming sometimes.
Right?
'Cause it's so good. You're almost like, is this real? I mean,
do you have to pinch yourself?
When's the floor going to come out from underneath me?
Yeah.
But you just got to be ready because it does. It's still, sometimes the floor does come out from underneath you.
Right.
And you just got to be ready to pick yourself back up and keep going.
And that's the perspective, is to know that life still happens. We encourage people to know that, you get in recovery and it's not like life stops happening, right? But we don't have to use over it. I can have a bad thing happen and I don't have to go out on the streets and buy some kind of drug to help me get through it. It's like I have, whether it's a sponsor, recovery coach, a sober friend in the a program or through my church or whoever it might be, but just knowing that there's other people out there who can identify and not judge you.
Right.
And what does that look like for you? So when you got into the pain clinic, you got supported medically. What else happened that helped you feel connected?
I started feeling like they cared, like the drug dealers make you feel like you're cared about. Drug dealers, that's their way of keeping you coming back.
Right.
Because they make you feel like they care. Oh, they're worried if you're sick or not, but no, they're just worried about getting your money.
Right.
But having a place where I could go and turn to that made me feel safe.
Yeah.
Like having IOP there, that back room there, I feel safe. It's like home now because it was a place where I could go and feel safe.
And that's huge too, how you're highlighting the location itself too.
Because that's a biggie.
Right?
I mean, we need more places like that.
So having multiple agencies under the same roof makes a big difference.
Oh,
because you're
big difference.
already comfortable there.
Yeah.
So you had done the IOP, which is the intensive outpatient through the Howard Center, and that's multiple times a week, multiple days per hour. And I, of course, because I know you, I know that you were connected with people in the recovery community, and we've talked about, like, the possibility of going to a church, and you continue to grow, but you at one point didn't have stable housing or transportation.
Right.
So what happened with that?
People started seeing me recovered.
Yeah.
Or in recovery, and they're like, wow. And then people just started trusting me again.
Yeah.
And I really like that. So I'm like, wow, this is working.
Yeah.
This is working.
And you've been able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but since you first decided to start this journey in recovery, you didn't have literally a place to live, transportation. You had wanted to further your education. You weren't feeling well physically.
Right.
So when we break those down, what does your transportation look like now?
I have a vehicle.
You're back on the road.
I'm back on the road. I mean, it needs some work, but that's everyday stuff.
Right, especially in the state of Vermont.
You're right. Yeah, I have a vehicle now. I had some good friends that helped me with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm back in with the school.
That was a big
I've
one.
had to take a little break because of my health, because I'm having trouble with my sugar and stuff, but I'm finally getting that back in order.
Right. So, and those are two things too, for somebody, for me, looking in on the, from the outside and watching you, I mean, let's look at the health piece of it. When we first met, you weren't feeling well.
No.
Since then, I mean, you're active, right?
Right.
You're exercising. You've lost a ton of weight.
Right.
You are like, you've got that glow. That glow. I feel like I'm almost envious of it. You've got more of a glow than I do.
Recovery does rock.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? And it's funny because over time, when I'd see you, it's like, look at how healthy, you've gotten so much healthier. And then the other piece, even if you're taking a break this semester, you're in college.
Right.
You're in college.
Right.
Holy cow.
It is wild.
It's amazing, Richard. So let's say, a little over a year ago, did you ever envision that you'd be where you are right now?
No.
Sharing your message?
I didn't think I would be here.
Right?
I didn't think I'd be here, period.
And
It was scary.
I remember you had that fear and that look like almost, I don't know if I'm going to live through this.
Right.
And now, not only have you lived through it, you are an example, and you're, without realizing it sometimes, saving lives by people being able to see you.
Right.
And to hear that you're in a place of such brokenness that you lost everything, had no idea where to go, what to do, and in such a short time, really, in the grand scheme of life, you have acquired yourself back access to transportation.
Right.
You're in college. You've been healthy. I see these you're positive affirmation. You're very committed.
Right.
So for you, what do you find to be the most helpful to get you through each day?
I remind myself of the people that helped me, and I remind myself of where I was briefly. I don't dwell on it, though.
Right.
You can't dwell on the past. You got to be mindful. So I live for the moment.
Absolutely.
I keep myself busy in the moment, and I make sure I do something positive. That way, it will breed itself, like I said earlier.
Right. So you're able to stay present.
Right.
And that's difficult.
Right.
I feel like you're light years ahead of me with the wisdom you've gotten in the time that you've been in recovery. It took me a while to be able to not live so much in the past. Because like you said,
That's a hard one.
why is it ever?
That's a hard one.
But it's not what helps us heal, right? So it's like we use our past as a springboard, not as a hammock. And sometimes it's easy to sit back there and think, oh my gosh, it was so, but that's not how we get strong enough to be in the present.
Right.
So you're able to stay focused in the present. Do you feel like in your life today, like you have goals, you have a purpose?
Right. Yeah, oh yeah, I have a big purpose now. I want to help others. I want to help them be where I'm at now.
Right.
I don't want people to suffer like I did. I know I can't save everybody, but even if it's one person,
Right.
that's why I post the stuff I do now. If I get one person to smile, that's going to help them throughout that day.
Right. So and it's funny because I feel like I say that a lot too. I'll put goofy quotes on Facebook
Yeah,
just to make
them are
people
nice.
laugh. And they're like,
Yeah.
that was great. And it's like, hey, if one person can smile,
Right.
then it's like, it's a good day.
Laughter's our best medicine.
For sure. And for you, do you find that there's certain things that you do daily that you know are essential? Like because you obviously post positive things and you really try to keep that positive perspective. Is there anything specific that you tend to read or that you go to on sites or people you connect with or what?
My meditation helps me a lot.
Awesome.
And recently I started crocheting.
Oh, did
so I'm
you?
making blankets for people, so it's a good feeling.
Oh my God.
And it's a good way to meditate and do something at the same time and feel positive and productive.
And you can do it. I've tried that.
Oh yeah, I learned a month ago and I got 3 blankets made already.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm a busy
that's
person when it comes to
hysterical.
that. The cold weather, I can't ride my bike, so I'm doing that. Yeah.
It's funny because there's at the Turning Point in Franklin County, the Recovery Center, they were doing different kind of crafts and they were teaching how to crochet and knit because they say it's very good meditation. It keeps your hands busy. You're able to just relax. And I mean, I tried it. I guess it could be relaxing, but I can't make anything look good.
See, with meditation, what helped me was learning how to meditate and not let the thoughts come in, only keep my safe place in my head. That's helped me learn how to be mindful too.
Right.
Because when the past starts coming in, I block it out like I do when I'm meditating.
Right. And where did you learn some of those skills?
IOP.
Through IOP.
I think every human being should have an IOP class, intensive IOP class.
I agree. Even if they
24 sessions, and I believe everybody should do one in their lifetime, especially youngsters.
Right.
Because I learned a lot in there. Being 43 years old, I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
I didn't know nothing.
Right.
I learned a lot in there.
That is so amazing.
I learned a lot.
I love to hear that because a lot of times, I know I've heard great feedback with IOP,
Right.
but this is the first time I've heard somebody say, I think everybody should do an IOP, whether or not they have addiction. And that's what I've often said about some of the recovery paths that I've used through 12-step, through church, through peer-to-peer. It's like everybody should have a program, even if they don't, have drug issues.
I learned life skills that would have prevented me from being where I was at.
Right.
So if somebody could take that before they were in the position I was in, then that would help them.
Because they'd have that raised awareness of what could potentially
Yeah,
happen.
knowing is half the battle.
So do you feel like now, and you've consistently said, you've said it on this show, and you've said to me over the last year plus, that you want to be able to help people. What do you ever envision yourself possibly going to Recovery Coach Academy or doing something like that?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to be careful in my first year.
Right.
And not overfill my plate too much.
Yep.
Because I'm hard on myself when I fail, so I fear that.
And that's a huge point too, that sometimes people in recovery, especially when they're new, we start feeling a little bit better and it's like, I'm ready to conquer the world.
Right.
And yet you're very wise to take, because that was a suggestion I got, don't make any serious changes in the first year. Your recovery is your full-time job, and if you can do that full-time job and take on a part-time, like a little work or going to school or whatever, then so be it. But if you have to lock yourself in your bedroom for a day and eat Fruit Loops because you're afraid you're going to pick up and you're vulnerable, lock yourself away. It's just not picking up.
Right.
And you have just done an amazing job of, suiting up and showing up. And, when we look at not just improving your own life, but being a force for good in the community, again, that's where I come back to what I see the picture on Facebook of you, that picture of your perspective of life, of being positive, of being mindful, being present. That's the stuff that some people work hard at their entire lives and can't achieve.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
It's amazing to me, though, and I know I've said that to you before, watching you, because for you, it's like it's happened in a very, very quick time. And even if people have 10, 15, 20 years in recovery, sometimes the quality of that recovery might struggle because, we get complacent, and I'm guilty of that too. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't really have time to do my morning readings. I can do without for a day, but I feel it. It doesn't mean I'm going to go use, but I feel that I'm off.
Right.
And you had mentioned the meditation is a big one for you too. How often do you try to tap into that?
I meditate several times a day. I mini meditate and I meditate twice a day, in the evening and in the morning.
And that helps you to get back to balance and centered.
Yeah, it helps with the anxiety. I mean, I had severe anxiety, social anxiety, and now, having to go down to the clinic every day. Help me. Just facing everybody, walking through the middle of the town. I mean,
Right.
I used to walk around, try to, I don't want to be seen. Yeah, it's weird how you start wanting to be seen.
Right.
I can look in the mirror in shame now and love that person I see. For a long time, I couldn't. I couldn't even look in the mirror.
And it's just amazing too when you say, like, you know, by going to the clinic, you know, each day, it forced you to go out and about, and yet you're so admired by the people that you're coming in contact with, and I'm sure that must have been helpful too.
Oh yeah,
that you're
that
just
place was
being
amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
So, you know, with being on the show, and we're coming towards a little bit of the end here, if you had kind of like a words to live by or words of wisdom or something that you just really feel that people out there should know, people who might be struggling, what would that be?
It would be mindful, be positive, feel love, let yourself feel the love, and love everybody no matter what's going on around you, because it's going to help. It's going to help.
And it's funny because you just said, you know, if people ask me, you know, how does a person recover? And if I have to put it in one word, it's love.
Mm-hmm.
And love is, sometimes we feel it emotionally, but it's really a decision. It's a decision to do those actions and give respect, even if we're not really feeling it.
Right.
You know, we have to act our way into right thinking. We can't think our way into right acting. We have to love our way into right relationships.
Right.
And you've been really instrumental in that in so many people's lives. There's so many people that I know that I come in contact with that are like, oh my gosh, look at him. And that's, a lot of that is just by who you are and who you've become. You hold yourself high. You have esteem, you're strong, and you're the example of somebody who doesn't just, you know, come on the show and talk the talk, because it's not like you're a super chatty guy,
Right.
but you walk the walk.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks volumes. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing with people so they can know that yet another recovery rock star who shared his journey went from a place of basically being depleted in all ways to being a healthy, honest, humble man, furthering your education, ready to do next steps to help other people. Like, you've done so much great work. So just keep up the great work.
Thank you.
I'm honored that you came on the show. And to all of our listeners, again, as I always say, there's not one person out there who can't recover. Anybody can recover. I don't care what the statistics say. We can change those statistics. It's a matter of edifying each other and speaking in truth and love. So at this point, I'm going to close with one of my favorite verses that's been on my heart, and it's to consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. It's a testing of your faith, and it develops character and perseverance. Anybody who wants recovery, you will definitely develop character and perseverance, but you're going to feel so free when you accept that gift. I thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on Recovery Rockstar.